My name is Virginia Hale, and I am 32 years old. My boyfriend kissed his ex-girlfriend and said it was just a test to see if I was jealous. I replied, "If you need to test loyalty, you already failed." Then I walked away. Funny how loyalty feels real when no one is playing games. I work in commercial real estate analysis. I live in a mid-sized coastal city and keep a structured routine built around work, the gym, and quiet nights. My boyfriend was Marcus. He is 30. We dated for just under 2 years and didn't live together, but we spent most weekends at each other's places and shared the same social circles. From the outside, the relationship looked fine. Stable jobs, regular dinners, vacations planned months ahead. Inside, it was more uneven than I wanted to admit. Marcus liked control, not openly. He framed it as standards. He liked reactions. If he told a story, he watched faces. If he made a comment, he waited to see who shifted. Early on, I assumed it was confidence. Over time, it felt more like provocation. His ex-girlfriend was always around the edges. Same friend group, same events, same stories resurfacing at the table. Marcus insisted they were mature about it. He said jealousy was unattractive and insecurity was a red flag. I agreed with that in principle. The night everything broke was at a mutual friend's birthday party. Loud bar, too many people, alcohol doing what it always does. I was talking with someone near the back when I saw Marcus across the room. He was standing close to his ex-girlfriend, too close, laughing in that exaggerated way he used when he wanted attention. I watched him lean in. Then I watched him kiss her, not a peck, not an accident. He saw me watching. That part mattered. When I walked over, he smiled like he'd been waiting for it. He told me it was not what it looked like. He said it was a test. He wanted to see if I cared enough to react. That told me everything I needed to know. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask questions. I told him that if someone needs to test loyalty, then loyalty is already gone. I left the bar and went home alone. I didn't know yet how complicated the fallout would become. I just knew I was done playing along. I blocked Marcus before I even got home. I did it while walking down the street after leaving the bar. Phone out. 1 tap to mute, 1 tap to block. Texts, calls, social media, everything clean and immediate. That decision was deliberate. I've learned that when someone frames disrespect as a test, the follow-up is never accountability. It's negotiation, explanations, pressure to engage. I wasn't interested in any of that. By the time I unlocked my apartment door, he no longer had a way to reach me. The next morning, I felt nothing dramatic. No urge to check my phone. No curiosity. Just relief. The kind that comes when you remove a variable instead of trying to manage it. Mutual friends filled in the gaps later. Apparently, Marcus was furious that I didn't react the way he expected. He thought I would confront him, demand reassurance, fight with his ex-girlfriend, do something loud enough to confirm he mattered. Instead, he got silence. He told people I was emotionally unavailable, that I couldn't handle passion, that I ran the moment things got real. He said blocking him was childish and extreme. I didn't correct the story. 2 days later, one of his friends reached out asking if I was okay. She said Marcus was spiraling, saying the kiss was meaningless, saying he never thought I would actually leave, saying it was just to see if I cared. That phrase came up again, to see if you cared. I told the friend I was fine and asked her not to relay messages. That boundary held. I went back to my routine. Work, gym, evenings in. The relationship ended so cleanly it almost felt unreal. No arguments, no closure talks, no recycling the same points. What I didn't expect was who would reach out next, and that was where things took a turn I did not see coming. The next message didn't come from Marcus. It came from his sister. Her name was Claire. She's 28. I'd met her plenty of times over the last couple of years. Family dinners, holidays, group outings where she stayed a little to the side, polite but distant, the kind of person who watches more than she speaks. If Marcus was the one who filled rooms, Claire was the one who read them. She texted me late the next afternoon. "I'm sorry if this is inappropriate. I just wanted to say, I saw what happened last night and you didn't deserve that." I stared at the message longer than I needed to. Not because I didn't know what to say, because the honesty in it felt unfamiliar. Most people didn't send messages like that unless they wanted something. This didn't sound like she wanted anything. It sounded like she was naming something that everyone else was pretending was normal. I replied once. "Thank you. I appreciate that. I kept it neutral on purpose." She responded almost immediately. Said she hoped I was doing okay. Said Marcus had a habit of turning relationships into experiments. Said this wasn't the first time. That was new information. Not shocking, but new in the way that suddenly makes a whole year make sense. It wasn't a long conversation. Just a few messages, no gossip, no trash talk. She didn't defend her brother. She didn't excuse him. She simply acknowledged reality and then let it sit there without trying to soften it. Over the next week, she checked in once more. Then again a few days later. Always respectful, always measured, never pushing, never fishing for details. I noticed something important. She wasn't trying to pick a side so she could feel righteous about it. She was trying to be honest. Meanwhile, the friend group kept doing what groups like that always do. They filled the empty space with stories, because silence makes people uncomfortable, and they rush to plug it with whatever version is easiest to digest. I heard through mutuals that Marcus was telling everyone I was emotionally unavailable, that I couldn't handle passion, that I ran the moment things got real, that blocking him was childish and extreme. It didn't bother me the way it probably should have, not because I was above it, because I'd been here before. When someone needs a reaction, they'll punish you for denying them one. Marcus wasn't upset that I left. He was upset that I left quietly. Quietly meant he didn't get to be the one who framed the ending. 2 days after the party, one of his friends asked if I was okay. She said Marcus was spiraling, insisting the kiss was meaningless, insisting he never thought I'd actually leave, insisting it was just to see if I cared. That phrase again, to see if you cared. Like loyalty was something you had to prove under pressure. I told her I was fine and asked her not to relay messages. That boundary held, but the pressure didn't stop. It just shifted shape. Instead of Marcus contacting me directly, people started hovering around me with indirect questions. So are you two talking? Do you think you'll forgive him? Maybe he didn't mean it like that. They said it like forgiveness was inevitable, like leaving was just a stage before returning. I went back to my routine. Work, gym, evenings in. The relationship ended so cleanly it almost felt unreal. No arguments, no closure talk, no long postmortem. I thought the silence would be the end. Then Claire asked if I wanted to grab coffee. Public place, middle of the day, no expectations. I said yes because the way she asked didn't feel like pressure. It felt like offering space. We talked about work, about family dynamics, about how exhausting it is to grow up around someone who needs constant reactions. She said something that stuck with me. That chaos feels normal when you grow up inside it, but peace can feel unfamiliar. That line explained more than she probably realized, because I had been telling myself for months that Marcus was just intense, that intensity meant passion, that his need to test me meant he cared. Sitting across from Claire, I realized how wrong that was. She wasn't defending him. She wasn't asking me to reconsider. She was naming the system out loud. When I got home, I felt lighter, not because I was interested in her, not like that, not yet, because for the first time I understood the environment I'd been dating into. And once you see the system, you stop blaming yourself for how it treated you. I still had no intention of dating anyone, especially not Marcus's sister. Life had other ideas, but at that point, all I knew was this. The relationship with Marcus ended in one clean decision. The real complication was what came next. I kept my distance after that coffee, not because anything felt wrong, but because too many things felt easy, and I didn't trust that yet. I had just stepped out of something chaotic, and I wasn't interested in replacing it with anything complicated, especially not someone connected to Marcus. Whatever Claire had given me in that conversation wasn't romantic. It was clarity. And clarity has a way of changing how you move through the world. A few days later, Marcus tried again through other people. Not directly. He never did things directly when he thought indirect pressure would work better. Mutual friends started dropping lines into conversations like bait. He's not doing well. He's embarrassed. He really didn't mean it. You know how he is. I listened, nodded, and changed the subject. Silence had already done more than arguing ever could. What I didn't expect was another message, this time from Marcus's younger brother, Caleb. He's 28. We'd met plenty of times over the years at family dinners and group events. He was quieter than Marcus, less performative. The kind of person who watched how people treated each other instead of how they talked about themselves. His message came late in the evening and started carefully. I hope this isn't crossing a line. I just wanted to say I saw what happened and I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. It landed differently than I expected. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was clean. No defense, no explanation, no ask. I replied once, "Thank you, I appreciate that." He wrote back almost immediately, saying he hoped I was doing okay. He said Marcus had a habit of turning relationships into experiments. He said this wasn't the first time. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. The sentence did enough work on its own. We didn't have a long conversation, just a few messages, no gossip, no trash talk. He didn't try to justify his brother. He didn't ask me to reconsider anything. He acknowledged what happened and then let the silence sit without trying to fill it. That stood out more than anything else. Over the next week, he checked in once more. Then again a few days later. Always measured, always respectful, never fishing for details, never testing the temperature. I noticed something important. He wasn't trying to pick a side so he could feel morally superior. He was trying to be honest without turning it into a performance. Meanwhile, the social circle kept doing what it does best, rewriting. According to Marcus, I was emotionally unavailable. I couldn't handle passion. I ran the moment things got real. Blocking him was childish and extreme. I didn't correct the story. I had no interest in wrestling control of a narrative that was already revealing more about him than me. 2 days after the party, one of his friends asked if I was okay. She said Marcus was spiraling, insisting the kiss was meaningless, insisting he never thought I'd actually leave, insisting it was just to see if I cared. That phrase again. To see if you cared. Like loyalty was something you had to prove under pressure. I told her I was fine and asked her not to relay messages. That boundary held. The pressure didn't stop, it just shifted. Instead of Marcus reaching out, people started hovering with indirect questions. Are you talking? Do you think you'll forgive him? Maybe he didn't mean it like that. They said it like forgiveness was inevitable, like leaving was just a phase before returning. I went back to my routine. Work, gym, evenings in. The relationship had ended so cleanly it almost felt unreal. No arguments, no closure talks, no recycling the same points. I thought the silence would be the end. Then Caleb asked if I wanted to grab coffee. Public place, middle of the day, no framing it as anything more than a conversation. I said yes because the way he asked didn't feel like pressure. It felt like offering space. We talked about work, about family dynamics, about how exhausting it is to grow up around someone who needs constant reactions to feel real. He said something that stuck with me. That chaos feels normal when you grow up inside it, but peace can feel unfamiliar. That line explained more than he probably realized, because I had been telling myself for months that Marcus was just intense, that intensity meant passion, that testing meant caring. Sitting across from Caleb, I realized how wrong that was. There was no flirting that day, just clarity. When I got home, I felt lighter, not because I was interested in him, but because I finally understood the system I had been dating into. And once you see the system, you stop blaming yourself for how it treated you. I still had no intention of dating anyone, especially not someone connected to Marcus. Life, as it turned out, had other ideas. I kept my distance after that coffee, not because anything felt wrong, but because too many things felt easy, and I didn't trust that yet. I had just exited something chaotic, and I wasn't interested in replacing it with anything complicated, especially not someone connected to Marcus. Whatever Caleb gave me in that conversation wasn't romance, it was relief. And relief can be confusing when you're used to tension masquerading as passion. Caleb respected that, without me having to explain it. No constant texts, no late-night emotional dumps, no subtle pressure disguised as concern. Weeks passed. We crossed paths once at a group gathering and spoke like normal adults. Marcus wasn't there. That mattered more than I expected. Eventually, Caleb asked if I wanted to grab dinner. Not framed as a date, just food. I said yes because there was no expectation attached to it. Dinner was calm. No probing questions about my breakup. No defense of his brother. He acknowledged the situation once and said he didn't agree with how it was handled. Then he let it go. That was new for me. As we talked, I noticed something subtle. He didn't perform. He didn't check my face for reactions. He didn't steer the conversation toward jealousy or validation. He was just present. When the night ended, he thanked me for coming and said he enjoyed talking. No pressure about what came next. No unspoken contract. That restraint stayed with me. Over the next month, we spent more time together. Slowly, intentionally. Walks, coffee, cooking at my place. Nothing rushed. Nothing secretive. Meanwhile, Marcus noticed. Mutual friends filled me in without being asked. He wasn't angry about the breakup anymore. He was angry about who I was spending time with. According to him, it was a betrayal. According to him, siblings were off limits no matter what happened before. According to him, I was doing this to hurt him. I heard all of it secondhand. I didn't respond. What struck me was the contrast. One brother treated people like variables in an experiment. The other treated people like people. Eventually, Caleb and I acknowledged what was already happening. We were dating, not to make a point, not to provoke a reaction, because it felt real and uncomplicated. One night, he said something that sealed it for me. He said he never felt the need to test me because trust isn't built through traps. That was when I knew this wasn't a rebound. It was an upgrade in how relationships were supposed to feel. Once it became clear Caleb and I were actually together, Marcus escalated. He tried to reach me through friends, coworkers, even a distant cousin I barely spoke to. The message was always the same. I was cruel. I was doing this on purpose. I was crossing a line. Caleb didn't stay silent. He handled it quietly and directly. He told his brother he wasn't stealing anything. He told him that kissing an ex in public wasn't a test. It was a choice. And he told him that if he wanted loyalty, he needed to stop treating people like props. That conversation didn't go well. Marcus accused him of always competing, of being jealous, of waiting for an opening. Caleb told him that was projection and ended the call. No shouting, no theatrics, just boundaries. Watching that was eye-opening. With Marcus, every conflict became a performance. With Caleb, conflict was something to resolve or exit. No audience required. Our relationship kept growing without friction. We spent time with each other's friends, made plans without contingency clauses. If one of us said we'd do something, we did it. One night, I asked him if he ever worried I'd test him the way his brother tested me. He said no, because if I ever felt the need to test him, I'd tell him instead. And if I didn't trust his answer, the relationship would already be broken. He smiled and said, "Good." Once Caleb and I were openly together, the noise around us shifted. It didn't explode, it thinned. Friends who thrived on commentary slowly drifted away. Invitations changed. Group chats went quiet. People who valued calm stayed. People who needed drama found somewhere else to stand. That filtering happened without either of us trying. It was almost elegant. Marcus didn't disappear right away. He escalated in smaller, sharper ways. He unfollowed, then refollowed, then blocked, then unblocked. He posted vague captions about betrayal and boundaries, about people who pretend to be loyal while crossing lines. Anyone who knew the context knew exactly who he was talking about. We ignored it. That seemed to bother him more than confrontation ever could. Caleb admitted something one night while we were making dinner. He said growing up, Marcus always needed to be the center. That relationships were less about connection and more about leverage. When Caleb stopped reacting, Marcus would provoke harder. He said seeing me walk away immediately had shaken his brother more than the kiss ever did. That made sense. People who test boundaries panic when someone enforces one cleanly. We took a short trip together not long after. Nothing extravagant. Just a few days away from the city. No agenda, no posting, no audience. Mornings were slow, evenings were quiet. On the drive back, Caleb said something that stayed with me. He said he'd never been in a relationship where he didn't feel like he had to perform loyalty instead of just live it. That was the difference. With Marcus, loyalty was something to prove under pressure. With Caleb, it was assumed and rarely questioned. Back home, life settled into a steady rhythm. Work, dinners, weekends that didn't feel fragile. Marcus faded into background noise, and for the first time I understood that what he'd called boring was actually stability. And stability was something I'd been missing longer than I realized. The last attempt Marcus made was subtle. He went through their parents. Caleb told me about it while we were cooking one evening. His mother had called, asking if he was sure about me, asking if this was really worth the damage to the family. It was framed as concern, but it carried Marcus's talking points. Caleb handled it calmly. He said no one damaged the family by refusing to accept disrespect. He said he didn't steal anything. He said he didn't create the situation. He simply chose not to lie to himself to keep the peace. That conversation ended awkwardly, but it ended. What followed was silence. From Marcus, from extended family, from anyone who expected this to blow up into something bigger. It never did. Instead, things normalized. Caleb and I kept building something ordinary and solid. We planned a longer trip, talked about moving in eventually, without deadlines or ultimatums. If something bothered us, we said it directly. No traps, no tests, no waiting to see if the other person would guess correctly. One night, I asked Caleb if he ever worried about how this all started, about how people might judge it. He said people who reduce stories to surface details were never going to understand the truth anyway. He said loyalty isn't about optics, it's about consistency when no one is watching. That answer stayed with me. By then, Marcus had mostly disappeared from our lives. Not because he accepted it, because he ran out of leverage. People who play games need players. We stopped playing, and that was when everything truly settled. By the time fall came around, the situation no longer felt tense. It felt finished. Our relationship wasn't defined by how it started, but by how it functioned day to day. Quiet mornings, shared errands, plans that didn't feel like negotiations. What stood out most was how little emotional energy it required. A mutual friend mentioned Marcus in passing once, said he was dating someone new, said he talked about loyalty a lot, said he framed himself as someone betrayed by people he trusted most. I nodded and changed the subject. There was nothing left to say. We eventually ran into Marcus at a larger family event. No confrontation, no scene. He avoided eye contact. When he did look over, there was no anger left, just disbelief. I think he expected this to implode, for one of us to fold, for the story to validate his version eventually. It never did. Later that night, Caleb said he felt relief. Not because his brother was unhappy, but because the dynamic had finally lost its power. No tests, no competition, no constant proving. He said he used to think loyalty meant staying no matter what. Now he saw that loyalty to yourself had to come first, or nothing else mattered. Looking back, the kiss was never the real issue. The real issue was the belief that love requires manipulation to feel real. That insecurity should be disguised as playfulness. That respect is optional if it can be explained away. Walking away that night wasn't emotional. It was logical. Dating Caleb wasn't revenge. It wasn't a statement. It was simply choosing someone who didn't need chaos to feel connected. Funny how loyalty feels real when no one is playing games.